what's cracking, folks? In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to interact with your clients when you go and do that first estimate. Generally, this is the first time you're going to meet the client, and I know when I was starting out, I was very nervous going up and doing estimates because in general, if you're doing a lot of residential work, you're going to be meeting your client at some time during their day where you're going to be going into their house, and it can be kind of intimidating, particularly when you're getting started. But the more quotes you do, the more estimates you do, the more clients you meet, it just gets easier and easier. And then now I do anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 quotes in a week on a good week, and I don't even think about it. It's just a routine part of my day. I have no stress associated with it, and there are some good just general etiquette things that would be good for you guys to think about as you're engaging in quotes and estimates and things, particularly with clients that you haven't met before. So this video particularly is going to deal more with first-time clients, not necessarily someone you've already had a relationship with and have worked for throughout the years. So you've done it where you've gotten their phone call or email, you've responded to them, you've set up the time to go and do the quote. Now it's the morning of the quote. So you show up, hopefully on time. I think Josh mentioned in another video that if you are going to be more than 10 minutes late, it's a really good idea to give them a call. And if you have lost their number, you can look at that handy photo I told you to take of their information earlier. That has saved my butt numerous times. Sometimes there's traffic or you didn't leave early enough or whatever it is, but I have found that the more communicative you are with your clients, the more appreciative they are of that interaction. There's almost not such a thing as over communicating. So most people tend to feel more included and in the know if you are keeping them up to date as your whereabouts and if things change with your plans. It's just a really courteous way to interact with your clients. So let's just go through, and now you pulled up to their house. You're going to go up and knock on their door. One other thing I should mention is that, so this is more true for trades that are like painting. Our paint gear is really it has a lot of paint on it, so it's not the most attractive garb to be showing up in to do an estimate. So generally, Josh and I dress in really nice jeans, a nice button-down shirt just like this one, in nicer shoes, not your work shoes. Some other trades tend to stay a little cleaner, like electricians and like HVAC guys. A lot of times showing up in whatever you work in is probably going to be fine as long as you're staying, fairly tidy. But, if you're a tile guy or a painter or, a carpenter and you have a bunch of beat up clothes on, in general, it's nice to show up and look a little bit more presentable, a little more professional, and it gives your client a little bit more confidence in kind of your cleanliness and just your overall presentation. So it's another nice layer of professionalism to add to your estimate and your quote. So, you're dressed snazzy, and another thing I would also recommend is keeping whatever your vehicle is just like respectably clean, particularly on the outside. Most people are going to rummage through your stuff on the inside, but it does. If you show up in a really ratty vehicle that's disgusting, that doesn't leave a good taste in people's mouths. Now, I do know that if you're a stonemason, a lot of times those trucks get beat up and there's not much you can do about that. And I will say there's probably different expectations for different types of contractors, but if you can keep your vehicle clean, I always think that's a nice addition to how you roll up onto a job site. A lot of times that's the first thing that the client sees. Now you approach the front door, you've got, hopefully a clipboard or I just use a notebook. I always have a pen on me with my notebook, and then for us, it's a lot about taking square footage measurements. So I have a laser measurer as well that just takes measurements. You can kind of set it on a wall and then shoot a room really quickly and get your square footage, which is very handy when we go back and do the estimate. So, you knock on the door, they open the door, you say, hey, how are you? My name's Jeremy. And you want to, shake their hand, just a little bit of etiquette with that. You don't want to do the limp fish handshake. You want it nice, and if you can keep it vertical, that's really what you want. I won't get into too much body language stuff here, but as you shake their hand, you want to look them in the eye and say like, "Hi, my name's Jeremy." And if you're already good with social cues and things, this won't be anything new. But that's just a nice firm handshake, nothing too crazy, not too hard, but the limp thing's weird, and it's another social cue where it establishes another level of rapport with your clients. And a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, my name's Diane, nice to meet you," and then they invite you in their house. A couple things to keep in mind here too. Some people have like a no shoe policy in their house. This happens a lot, so just be aware you might have to take your work boots off or whatever and go in your sock feet. I've done quite a few quotes in my sock feet. I guess it depends on where you live, but it's super popular around here to not have shoes on in the house, which is just something you got to account for. Another thing too is that you don't want to rush through the quote. As you interact with the client, they're gonna, depending on their comfortability or if what their time constraints are during the time of the quote, they're going to show you where the work needs to take place, and really take your time with taking pictures, taking measurements, getting all the information. If you're working behind other contractors and they're on site, if you have any questions about what else is going on, just make sure you get all those points clarified, because you will be very happy with yourself with the more details you've gotten as you go back to do the estimate. So you've looked at the job, you've gotten all your technical details that you need to do your estimate, and hopefully you've been somewhat conversing with the client through this whole process. And it is often a good idea, or you kind of have to gauge whether or not it's appropriate, but to engage in some level of small talk with your clients and or your potential clients if you're doing an estimate. People really love talking about their house. A lot of times they talk about what they've done to it, and that's it, particularly if they've done anything themselves. Another general rule that Josh and I have adopted over the years is to never critique or criticize any work that has been done prior in the house, because oftentimes, even if it's a terrible hack job, a lot of times it's the homeowner or the homeowner's spouse that did the work, and that can just set things off to a really awkward start. So you always kind of, we've had a lot of clients where, they'll be like, "Oh, my husband's a really great painter. He just can't do it anymore. He painted this room." And we're looking around like, "I am sure he did." And it's just like atrocious. But we don't say that. You keep that on the inside of your face and you move on. Also, I'm going to do a separate video on pet etiquette. That is something pretty important to figure out up front. Particularly things like, is it an indoor cat or an outdoor cat? That can ruin your whole job experience if you let an animal out that shouldn't have been let out, and they're really hard to catch. So, and the chances of you working for that person again are very small. So that's kind of, gauging small talk is going to be something that y'all will get better with the more you do it. And also you don't want to hold your potential client hostage with any of your own thoughts and feelings. It's the estimate and the quote is not about you. It's about solving your client's problem, getting the information you need to do the estimate, and leaving them feeling confident. So you showed up, your vehicle looks clean, you look clean, you shake their hand, you tell them your name, they give you their name, you come in, you do the estimate, you get all the details you need, you might engage in a little bit of small talk. You talk about their house, you talk about maybe a hobby they have, or you see you have a common interest, or perhaps, people love talking about their pets too. And if you're a dog person or a cat person, that's often a really good connection point. And usually people are really happy if you're complimentary of their animals that they happen to own. And then, as you get closer to leaving, you want to make sure you get any information you need that you didn't get before, like their email. That's often how people are sending estimates. We've had some older clients that we have to do snail mail, which is fine. You already have the address from the estimate. And then another bit of information to let them in on is to tell them when they can expect the estimate. That is another way to assuage any of their uncertainty and anxiety about any of the whole kind of contracting experience. So also be really kind to yourself. This is something that I've learned over the years. Give yourself a nice window, unless they have some real specific need of like a quick turnaround, or they have some truncated timetable where they really need to move quickly on the job. So I usually say that, I'll get it to you by the weekend, because that's generally when I catch up on my paperwork. It gives you a little bit of leeway, not too specific, because, life happens, things come up. Basically, the more wiggle room you give yourself, the less chance you'll end up being a liar. So that's just a general tip that I've learned over the years. So, all right, guys, that is general client interaction, etiquette, and all of that jazz, and I will go over some pet etiquette things in another video.